Before inviting Austin Nevitt, class of '04, Matthew's brother, to come forward to introduce Matthew, would all recipients who are with us this evening, including our beloved honorary award recipients, Rodney Walter, Bob Hauser, and Tom Pruitt, would you all please stand at this time to be recognized? Thank you for this evening. Austin, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Father Paul.
You want a poem, Austin?
I gave those up years ago, after you stopped asking for them. All right. As the youngest in the family, I expected to be called upon one day to stand at a podium in front of a crowd of people and speak about one of my siblings in a loving and sentimental manner, while they lay in a half-open wooden box. Doing their best impression of when our mom used to ask us, "Can somebody please help me in the kitchen?" We used to pretend like we were asleep. So the fact that I'm currently at a podium in front of a crowd of people getting ready to speak about Matthew here tonight, and he's sitting there very much alive at a dinner table, is not how I thought this would all go down. Nevertheless, I'm delighted to be introducing my brother tonight as the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award recipient, but I am most appreciative of the opportunity to get in a dry run for next time. For context, Matthew told me via text message that he was going to be honored this evening with tonight's award, and I of course shared my congratulations. Having been to a Moroney dinner before, I knew that Matthew would be in need of someone to introduce him as part of the night's festivities. So I immediately sent another text back offering to be that person. I received no reply. A few weeks later, I get a message from him that says, "Call me, not urgent." I sent back a response that I unfortunately can't share with y'all tonight because according to my wife, it was too inappropriate. You can ask me later. Either way, I did indeed call him, and you can guess what the call was about. I'm not quite sure what eventually led Matthew to send that text weeks later, and I'll never know. Now you might be thinking to yourself, that doesn't make sense. I'm sure you have plenty of opportunities to ask him why he wanted you to speak tonight. But what you may have already forgotten is that I'm the youngest in the family, and it is my inherent responsibility to never ask questions. I just do what I'm told. I've done it for 38 years, and so far it has served me well. So since I will never know why I was asked to be up here tonight, let's at least talk about why I offered to be. When I reflect on my childhood, some of my favorite memories involve two things. I have two things in common, Matthew and Cistercian. One of the earliest memories was in our Delford house over in East Dallas when Matthew was in middle school. During football season, he would from time to time have his football uniform at the house after an away game or over the weekend. And I can't remember whether I had to sneak in his room or he let me in, but I would go over to his awful smelling football equipment, put it all on, and look at myself in the mirror. Each time I did, I vividly remember the feeling of joy it gave me to see Hawks written on the chest of that jersey, and I couldn't wait to hopefully wear that uniform for real one day. And then as we got older, I remember Matthew coming home from closing ceremonies year after year with about 10 to 15 different awards, medals, pins, ribbons for academic excellence. And I wasn't quite sure at the time what closing ceremonies was, other than an event where Matthew went on stage, got an award from a monk, then went back to his seat until his name was called like 5 minutes later and did it all over again. And it wasn't until I realized that Adam never came home with anything. I've been sitting on that joke for like 2 months. But I began to understand the level of Matthew's intelligence. And as a quick side note, he literally had a bookcase in his room growing up just for his book awards. And for any Cistercian graduate here, can you imagine having so many book awards that you needed an extra piece of furniture to put them on? So I'll go ahead and say what we're all thinking. Nerd. But in actuality, he was far from being just a book nerd. His accomplishments outside of the classroom were just as impressive. In the upper school, Matthew achieved great success on the field, court, and track. His leather jacket sleeves were so full of patches and accolades, he could really barely even bend his arms. Maybe if his jacket wasn't a size small, he would have had He would have had room for the patches and better dexterity, but you have to work with what you got. I'm like 6'4" and he's like 5'2". So but what did all of this athletic success really add up to? Popularity and high school chicks. And who truly benefited from those two things? This guy. Most kids my age were at home watching Disney movies, but I had a busy social calendar. I was making appearances at Friday night football after-game parties, in the famous Saturday volleyball tournament, and countless other events an 8-year-old shouldn't be at. Looking back, I'm not sure if it was Matthew letting me tag along or just questionable parenting. Either way, I was constantly surrounded by girls twice my age, and it was awesome. And then finally, when it was my turn to attend Cistercian, I got to see firsthand the true impact Matthew was having on the school. I started Form 1 the same year Matthew was graduating, so our time together as students was short, but I was fortunate enough to get a brief glimpse of a different side to the brother I knew. What I saw was the respect he had for his peers and from his peers. So much respect that I was allowed to walk through the senior hallway each morning on the way to my classroom, unscathed. At the time, I didn't know any better, but apparently no one other than seniors were supposed to be in that hallway. But nobody messed with Nevitt's little brother. I also saw the camaraderie he had with his teachers. As a teacher myself, students like Matthew are rare, and they remind you why you choose to be a teacher. For me at the time, though, I always make sure to introduce myself to my teachers as Matthew's Nevitt's little brother. And it usually paid off. And finally, I noticed the indelible mark he was leaving on the school. It had been a long 8-year process, but I was able to watch him put the final touches on the tremendous legacy that he had made for himself. Cistercian has been part of our family for so many years, and it all began with Matthew. His story is forever part of the school's history. He forged his path to inspire me to live up to our name. I do not believe there has been another Hawk that has come close to what Matthew has accomplished both in and outside the classroom. His dedication and excellence then, combined with his continued passion and service to the school now, as class agent, volunteer, parent, and team doctor, encompass the purpose and heart of the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award. So why offer to speak tonight? I wanted a chance to share with y'all what I think is a pretty insightful perspective on the life of our award recipient tonight. Baby brother perspective is unique and special. I grew up wanting to be just like him. Then one day I realized those shoes were going to be too big to fill. So I decided to simply enjoy watching him do his thing. I was so proud to be Matthew Nevitt's little brother then, and I still very much am now. I cherish those Cistercian years together. You always made me feel included in your life. It made my childhood fun and memorable. And for that, I have always been so grateful. Now, I would be remiss not to mention that with tonight's honor, Matthew has officially won every single award. So congratulations, Matthew, on completing the set. You earned it. And before I introduce Matthew, I'm just going to warn y'all, the men in our family aren't huggers. I honestly don't think I've ever hugged Matthew. Like a full frontal 2-arm embrace. And I feel like a handshake in this moment would be more appropriate if we were like co-signing a loan. So I'm going to go for the hug. It could be totally normal, or it could be the cringiest thing you've ever seen. So my sincerest apologies if it gets really awkward. Feel free to look away. I promise we'll work on it together as a family. Now, with all of that said, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the podium to receive this year's Jim and Lynn Moroney Award, my brother, Matthew Nevitt.
Father Peter, Father Paul, Cistercian monks, faculty, parents, alumni, and friends. Thank you all for being here tonight as I'm honored to receive the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award. First, I would like to acknowledge a few special people here tonight. My wife and partner, Christine, our 4 children, Grant, Dean, Audrey, and Luke, my parents, Matt and Kathy, my siblings, Adam and his wife, Jessica, Amy and her husband, Chris Hill, Austin and his wife, Lindsay, my in-laws, Vicki and Warren Peterson, and my 1997 classmates and parents. I'm not a very funny guy, but I've been known to write a Hallmark card or two. So I'd like to share with you a story tonight, a story that began in 1988. The intro to the story goes like this. I was a 4th grade student at St. Pius X Catholic School in East Dallas. I assumed that I would follow in the footsteps of my parents and their collective 13 siblings who attended St. Pius X through 8th grade and then went to the nearby Bishop Lynch High School. However, my story took a slightly different path than my relatives. My dad read an article one day in the Texas Catholic about this small all-boys Catholic school in Irving. Having been taught themselves by Dominican priests and nuns, my parents were intrigued by the idea of sending their oldest son to Catholic school, still taught by the religious. I arrived on Cistercian campus for the first time in January 1989 to take the entrance exam, and still remember walking up the middle school stairs for the first time, seeing the admissions director standing at the top, smiling down at me, Father Peter, who was also slated to be the form master for the class of 1997. I was accepted. However, there were 2 hurdles for me to attend, and this brings me to the first chapter of the story about sacrifice. First hurdle, it cost a lot. Financially, the cost to attend Cistercian was a huge jump for my family compared to my 4th grade tuition. My dad, the accountant, had several meetings with the headmaster, Father Bernard. And in the end, it was because of Father Bernard's help and understanding at the time that my parents were able to send me and my 2 younger brothers to Cistercian and to make this night possible. Thank you, Father Bernard. Second hurdle, we lived in Far East Dallas, about 25 miles from Cistercian. There were 6 of us living in a 1,200 square foot home, and the family owned 1 car at the time. My 3 siblings and I were going to St. Pius X, about a mile from the house, and now my family had to get me back and forth to Irving each day. For the first 2 years, my parents drove me each morning to my great aunt's house in North Dallas to meet Mr. Walter in the Cistercian bus. Only to take another 40-minute bus ride to school, and then Mom would pick me up each day after school and for a long drive home, which sometimes seemed like hours on I-30. This story is about sacrifice. I would not have been able to attend this great school, had the experiences, made the relationships, had the academic preparation needed to succeed, had it not started with the help and understanding by Cistercian leaders like Father Bernard and the sacrifices by my parents. The next chapter of the story is about friendship. Everyone here tonight knows what a unique opportunity the Cistercian experience is for boys. It is not common that you can pledge a fraternity at the age of 10, but a fraternity of brothers is essentially what each class has. My class of 1997 was small at the time, only graduating 31, and we certainly had quite a variety of personalities, interests, and even religious beliefs. Academically, we struggled through Father Matthew's first form Latin together, conjugating verbs while hearing about his favorite football team, the Rams. We got muddy together roaming the campus collecting bugs in Mr. Gann's biology class while memorizing the definition of a cell membrane. Double-layered phospholipid protein-studded membrane. We were briefly tortured by Father Peter and Beowulf, memorizing Old English, New Way, Shulon, Hermion, Heaven Reaches Where. But we all take the same classes here, so we did it together. Athletically, we competed on courts and fields together, winning games and championships despite our small size. We goofed off together in the classroom, playing magnetic desks, watching Don Stanley break the gym window playing wall ball, picking up and moving Bill Pritchett's Honda hatchback from the parking lot, and getting class penances for skipping Mrs. Greenfield's English class. We endured tragedy together with the loss of Dee Walker, our classmate, between junior and senior year, and then another classmate, Mark Cochran, after he graduated. No parent, sibling, or friend is prepared to deal with such an unexpected loss, but through our form master, Father Peter's guidance and counseling, we worked through this process, maintaining and building our bond as classmates, brothers, and family. Ryan Smith and I are officially listed as Class 1997 class agents, but the guy that probably does the best job keeping us connected is Jeremy Gregg. Jeremy and I were texting back and forth a couple weeks ago, and I'll paraphrase the conversation we had. It's okay. We are very different guys, but we respect the path each of us has walked. We are better people because of the other, and we are grateful that we are still friends and will always be friends. At Cistercian, we play and we have fun together. We fight and we compete. We test authority at times, but that's what boys do. That's what brothers do. My favorite part of the story is the next one, and that's the part about love. Cover your ears, kids. My wife, Christine, attended Ursuline and was a cheerleader for Cistercian. We never really hung out in high school. At the end of my senior year, though, I invited her to go to prom with me. We went as friends, got our picture taken, attended the after party at Nick Judge's house, and then didn't say one more word to each other for 4 more years. I went off to Austin College in Sherman for undergrad and later got into UT Southwestern Medical School in Dallas. So the summer before I started med school, I was back home in Dallas and started reconnecting with some of my Cistercian classmates. Mark Cochran and Jeff Dawson organized some get-togethers that summer with former classmates where I ran into Christine again, now 4 years later. She was a year behind me and still a senior at SMU, but we started dating that summer and never looked back. She stayed in Dallas and went to SMU Law School. We had many study dates for almost 3 years until Father Peter married us at the Cistercian Abbey while we were on Christmas break. Without Cistercian, we would not have met, we would not have been reunited, and we wouldn't have these 4 great kids here tonight. Christine, you were my high school sweetheart. It just took me 4 years of college to wise up and walk. You're an amazing woman, devoted mother, and supportive partner. Thank you for the sacrifices you have made for the family. Thank you for the thoughtfulness you continue to show to all those around you. Thank you for encouraging us all at home to be better versions of ourselves. I love you. The potentially tear-jerking chapter comes next. At our house, we have a tablet in the kitchen that rotates inspirational quotes. One of our family's favorite quotes is Maya Angelou's quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I have a lot of heroes in my life, a lot of people that I will never forget because of how they made me feel, many of whom are connected to Cistercian in some way. First and foremost, my greatest Cistercian hero is Father Peter. I met Father Peter when he was a 30-something-year-old priest, a missions director, having just cycled back as Reform Master after graduating his first class. He was a fun and engaged Form Master, organizing the summer hike up Wheeler Peak in New Mexico. I still remember the first day of hiking, carrying 40-pound packs, all of us starved, ready to stop for lunch. Despite wanting to stop, Father Peter kept telling us, just a little bit further, one more switchback, almost there. He finally gave us the okay to stop, and I don't think logs of room temperature meat and cheese ever tasted so good. Father Peter was our Cistercian guide, both on the mountain in New Mexico and on the campus in Irving. He nudged us, but was always encouraging and inclusive. We trusted him because he listened and always made us feel safe. Father Peter was like a second father to me and my classmates during those formative years, a fair disciplinarian, a consoling counselor, a role model for all of us as we grew into young men. No other alumnus has given back more to this community than Father Peter, since he graduated from the school in 1973, later joined the monastery, served as headmaster, was just recently reelected to another 6-year term as abbot. Father Peter, you are my hero. Father Dennis was the abbot when I was a student. For me, though, he was more than that and more than my math teacher. He was my friend. He was a counselor, sometimes a bit cryptic and confusing with his metaphors, but wise nonetheless. He helped me discern my college decision by putting things in perspective and helping me realize what's important and how to be happy. After I graduated, Every time I saw him on campus, he would make eye contact, get a big smile, walk over, put his hand on my cheek and say, "You look happy, you look at peace." I couldn't bear to tell him a few of those times that, "Nope, not really, Father. What's going on right now?" But there was something about his touch and his smile that if I wasn't happy and at peace when I showed up, I certainly was after I left seeing him. Father Dennis, you are my hero. Boys need an outlet from the classroom, and for many of us, that was participating in a sport. When you sweat and compete together, it's hard to ever forget some of those teammates, those games, and those coaches. Those of us who played sports at Cistercian in the 1980s and 90s had the opportunity to know Coach Hillary. What I most admired about Coach Hillary is that he didn't have to say much. He had an intimidating physique, deep voice, and he chose his words carefully. He would get upset at times with players' performance and team performance, but I don't ever remember him complaining about a bad call or arguing with the officials. His coaching style was by the book. He wasn't big on trick plays. He wanted to win playing bread and butter. I remember playing for the SBC football championship my senior year, and at halftime I told Coach they weren't covering me after the fake handoff coming out of the backfield, and I thought Baxter could hit me wide open down the field second half. Only because I was a senior and it was my last game did I think I could suggest a play to Coach. We did run the play second half, but the reason I remember this is that it wasn't like Coach to deviate from the plan, but as intimidating as he might have seemed at times, you mattered and he listened. He was always prepared, he was always professional, and he didn't take shortcuts. He expected 100% effort, and he gave 100% effort himself. He showed respect to all and was respected by all. What I learned from Coach Hillary: do your job, don't make excuses, play by the rules. Coach Hillary, you are my hero. Lastly, my Cistercian heroes that I've known the longest, my parents, Matt and Kathy. My parents wanted my siblings and I to have a Catholic education, and they saw how special and unique Cistercian was for boys. They made the long drives, they made the financial sacrifice. They have given me love, guidance, and opportunity. They worked as a team, complementing each other in many ways, providing the support and stability needed to raise 4 children and now grandparent another 13. I used to joke with my parents that once I was a teenager, they were too busy raising my younger 3 siblings, so I basically had to raise myself from there. I, of course, thought I was turning out pretty well and wanted to take full credit for that. Well, just so you know, Mom and Dad, I admit in front of everyone here, I know that I did not raise myself. Father Peter raised me. Dad, you've always led by example, strong in your convictions and thoughtful of others. You taught me the value of hard work and sacrifice, the importance of family and faith. You always made me feel safe, loved, and supported. Mom, you're always full of love and cheer. If you had a bad day, no one would ever know. You always find the rainbow in any storm. Most in this room know Nurse Nevitt better than they know me, which is a credit to the impression she leaves. Whether it is caring for a boy in the sick room, providing a chair and a listening ear in her office, or simply passing out her peppermint, my mom makes everyone around here feel good. Mom and Dad, I sincerely appreciate all that you have done, and I've tried to make the most of every opportunity I was given. You both have been my greatest role models in many ways. I am not who I am or what I am without you, and tonight's celebration would not be possible without you. Mom and Dad, you are my heroes. The final chapter and the unfinished chapter of the story is about reunion. The Cistercian experience and the Cistercian relationships do not stop after you graduate. For some years after we graduated, we would get together in Austin at the house of Sean Cox, Francis Sang, and Andrew Bodie, hanging out and floating the river for the weekend. We would see each other over the holidays and at reunions weekend in June. Here's a recent pic of our 25th high school reunion gathering at my house. I now work in the operating room weekly with another Cistercian dad from the senior class and work frequently with anesthesiologist Andrew Kahn, class of 1995, pictured here, reunited with our high school basketball coach Danny Lee. The Cistercian experience attracts parents and families back too. Before I returned to campus regularly after graduation, my mom rejoined the community as the full-time school nurse at Cistercian, a post that she has held now for 18 years. It's funny, back in the 90s, I was Matthew Nevitt, the Cistercian student. Then after that, I was Matthew Nevitt alum and class agent for class of 1997. Then I was Dr. Nevitt, team physician. But most recently, as a new Cistercian parent 8 years ago, I was greeted by other parents as, "Oh, you're Kathy Nevitt's son." Let me tell you, that's a mouthful to put on a name tag for those new parent parties. My 3 sons now attend Cistercian. Grant is Form 8, Dean is Form 6, Luke is Form 2. They have many of the same teachers that I had, Dr. Newcomb, Dr. Pruitt, Mr. Hazard, to name a few. I laugh when I hear them tell stories about their school day because of how familiar they sound. Only difference really being, unfortunately, they don't tell them in the Hungarian accent like we did. I'm back on the lower field watching soccer games from the stands and football games from the sideline as a parent and team physician. Father Peter asked me to be team physician for the school about 11 years ago. It was exciting to be back on campus regularly, more exciting when my boys started attending and playing sports, and most exciting these past few years when I had all 3 of them on the sideline with me. Last year, Grant was a junior playing varsity wide receiver. Dean was a freshman and varsity place kicker, and Luke was a first former and ball boy for the team. During one game, I'm standing amongst the team on the sideline when I catch a glimpse of a football being thrown at me. I instinctively grab it, look over to see Luke, the ball boy, tossing me the game ball. Moments before, my oldest Grant had caught a touchdown pass. Dean comes in, kicks the extra point. Luke, the ball boy, catches the extra point behind the end zone, runs the ball over, throws it to me saying, "Hey Dad, now every Nevitt has touched it." Boys, I'm so proud of the young men you are becoming, but Mom and I can't take full credit for that. Cistercian has and is impacting you in ways you don't even realize yet. I know that you appreciate the education, relationships, and experiences you are having, but I promise you will look back later with even more appreciation as I have. Next year, Grant will be off to college, but I'll hopefully add another family member to the sideline, my daughter Audrey, who may be a Cistercian cheerleader, like her mother. Audrey, I have been unable to get you into Cistercian so far. But now that I'm a Moroney Award winner, I'll keep trying, but if it doesn't work out, I know you'll succeed at Urson or whichever Catholic high school you attend next year. We may graduate and leave Irving, but Cistercian never leaves us. As alumni and alumni parents, we cannot help but to be drawn back to this great place that has profoundly influenced our lives and the lives of our sons. Christine and I are proud to now serve as co-chairs of the capital campaign, Formation Beyond the Classroom. As you all know, Cistercian does not do as much fundraising as other schools. We raise out of need, not out of want, We need to update facilities. We need to stay competitive with area high schools. We need to enhance the spiritual and academic education of young men. We rarely have an opportunity like we have now to build something for the future, to carry on this Cistercian experience for the next generation, to honor our Cistercian heroes of the past and present, to say thank you for the men we have become and the men our sons have become. As you've heard this evening, every part of this story, my story since 1988, involves Cistercian in some way. It's a story of sacrifice, friendship, love, heroism, and reunion. Cistercian is more than a school, more than a monastery, it's an experience. That experience started long before I was born, with the determination of some Hungarian monks and with the help of families like the Moroneys. And the experience will continue long after all of us here. We are all here tonight, not just because of what Cistercian says or does, but because of how it makes us feel. Thank you again for this honor. Have a good night, and go Hawks.